I think this is about the third week in a row where we're talking about the organizational structure of Warner Brothers and how they are in total disarray and why they really shouldn't be. This very much highlights just how stupid and how absolutely ridiculous Warner Brothers is as a company. Because there was a story like this, I think at the tail end of last year. I remember talking about it, I just couldn't find the receipts on it, but yeah, it read very similar to this, but this was in regards to the film and television space, which we talked about, I think, what was that, last week, and just how they ended up bifurcating as a studio, how you're going to have your streaming and movie division, and then you're going to have your traditional cable side of the business. That's going to end up taking on the nearly $40 billion in debt. Meanwhile, the HBO and cinematic side of things, well, they can just take all of those profitable IPs and, I don't know, drive them into the ground, because it's not too dissimilar to that old parable about how communism ultimately, like if you just did this massive wealth redistribution, 9 out of 9 times, you're always just going to end up with a bunch of stupid people frivolously spending their ill-gotten wealth, and the rich people end up accumulating more wealth because they are far more competent at doing it. Once again, proving another saying true: to those who have everything, more will be given. To those who have nothing, everything will be taken. And yeah, because Warner Brothers is in fact, I would say, what, the second largest studio and definitely the second biggest name in Hollywood, they get away with murder. They're never going to have to make do on their insurmountably large debt, and they're just going to continue to make stupid business decision after stupid business decision. But we've talked enough about Superman, and we're very likely to do as much this week with, what, next week? God, that movie comes out next week, huh? Because we get treated to just the absolute peak cinema that is a Jurassic World Rebirth this Friday. Really can't wait for that crap. But here we have the Warner Brothers Games division, which is, well, they've been in a bit of hot water, okay? With Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League kicking off last year and just driving their prospects in the ground. And then you also had Multiverses fall flat on its face, starting off with a lot of good hype and then having to close down in less than a year. Tough times over there. And also, what was that? Earlier this year, you had Mortal Kombat 1, a game that I have talked about at length, with a series that I care quite a bit about. But yeah, just to see how they have fallen off so hard, well, they just wrapped up Mortal Kombat 1. Now that they've announced, I don't know if they've released it quite yet, but they're going to have the complete edition, which is going to have that overpriced and really, truly awful expansion with the race and gender swapped. I don't think they're race swapped, because Sector was always Asian and Cyrax was always black, or at least when we first got their faces in Mortal Kombat 9. It could have been different before that, okay? They were very much guys. And then they ended up being women because, of course, that's exactly what they do in Mortal Kombat 1. Like, they ruin so much stuff. Like, the mainline story, for the most part, like, it was fine. And then they started to do all that multiverse time traveling shit, and it just went totally off the rails. The Chaos Reigns expansion, bro, it's all of that stuff. It's horrifically overacted is the best way that I can put it. Oh, take a look at that motion capture technology that they have on the faces, where everybody talks like they have the direction that they need to gesticulate and articulate all of their words, so people sitting in row Z of the arena that they are filming this in can go ahead and read their lips. It's so bad. But I digress. We can talk about Warner Brothers Games as a whole, as now they have restructured, just like they have on the film side of things, by focusing on specifically Game of Thrones, which, yeah, there's a new Game of Thrones RTS coming out, but I kind of lost any faith in that series producing good video games right after he ended up getting hoodwinked with what could have been really cool. Okay, I think it was called Game of Thrones King's Road, which was announced, what was that, the Game Awards at the last year, okay? In December, or it could have been Summer Games Fest, but regardless, okay, it was announced, and it's like, oh, cool, it looks like you're going to be retelling the story from the bad seasons of Game of Thrones, so from 5 all the way through to the end, and it's like, oh, that could be cool. You know, you're this new character that's coming in, you're going to be working side by side with, you know, Jon Snow, Jaime Lannister, stupid Daenerys Targaryen, making more sense of those later stage stories, and it's like, yeah, that could be cool. And then it was released, and it was just some cash grab gotcha game. It's like, oh, for Christ's sake. So why should I have any faith of their interpretation of a coherent RTS, a series that famously towards the tail end of the show got really, really, really bad at telling a coherent wide-scale battle Why would I think that you would be able to translate that to a video game? And then, of course, yeah, Harry Potter, because we know that a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy has been fast-tracked, and that was the last time that you guys seen any success. And then, of course, yeah, Mortal Kombat and the DC Universe divisions, which DC, holy shit. You have anything in development right now? Because we've heard rumors that Rocksteady is working on either a remake or a continuation of the Arkham series, but you killed off the Wonder Woman game and you closed down that studio, and Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Well, that's been dead for 6 months at this point in time. So what exactly do you have in development? Okay, because you got NetherRealm Studios working on Mortal Kombat, which I don't know if you're going to be focusing specifically on Mortal Kombat. Does that mean that there's going to be no more Injustice games, or is that going to be a crossover with the DC universe? So, or is NetherRealm Studios going to be able to do something new? Which at this point in time, man, it's like it's all just going to suck. Hogwarts Legacy maker Warner Brothers Games has set a new leadership team for its development, production, and tech operations, and restructured into divisions based on 4 key franchises: Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Mortal Kombat, and the DC Universe, which it's like, okay, that totally makes sense. What about your Lord of the Rings games? I understand that you closed down Monolith Studio, which is responsible for a lot of the Shadows games, Shadow of War and Shadow of Mordor, but you also have the adaptation rights, at least for the film side of things. But how does that work for video games? Can you delve into the other aspects of Tolkien's Legendarium? Because there's a lot of incredibly good source material that's there that you could pull on, but no, of course not. And heaven forbid you'd want to, I don't know, create a brand new IP in your gaming division and try to spin something off from that. Whatever, man. Per WBD, 3 current studio heads have been promoted to the role of senior vice president as part of Warner Brothers Games restructure. Warner Brothers Games Montreal studio head Yves Lachance has been promoted to senior vice president of development, overseeing development teams working on Harry Potter and Game of Thrones games. Yeah, but the last time Warner Brothers Games, okay, I'm not entirely sure what they worked on. Were they at all affiliated with Hogwarts Legacy? Because I know that they worked on Batman Arkham Origins, the only Arkham game that wasn't specifically spearheaded by Rocksteady. So it's interesting that they want to go ahead and put that guy in charge of, yes, Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, which is, I can see the crossover, but interesting. Okay, NetherRealm Studio head Sean Himmerich. Okay, not Ed Boon, huh? Okay, has been promoted to Senior Vice President, Development, overseeing, yes, Mortal Kombat and DC games. Huh. And Warner Brothers Games New York Studio Chief Stephen Flannery has been promoted to Senior Vice President, Central Tech, and Services, overseeing game and publishing technology. Okay, so he's going to be the boss of bosses. Under the new WB Games development, production, and tech leadership structure, Lachance, Himmerich, and Flannery will all report directly to J.P. Perrette, Warner Brothers Discovery, CEO of Global Streaming and Games. Okay, so it's going to be on that side of the aisle. Makes sense. As teams across development, production, and tech will report to Lachance and Himmerich, aligned to the franchises for which they are creating games. To the gaming publishing division leadership will continue to be overseen by Perrette. Variety has confirmed this restructuring did not include any layoffs, or the exit of any executives. Well, yeah, of course, right? Because all of the pencil pushers get to keep their jobs, but the people that are programming the slop that you mandate they make, no, they're the ones that end up bearing the brunt of the firing. Yeah, makes sense, right? But the change comes on the heels of the January exit of former Warner Brothers Games chief David Haddad. It is currently unclear whether this new structure is in lieu of the permanent replacement for Haddad, or if the company is still actively seeking an overall leader. Well, this could kind of dovetail nicely into what exactly are they going to be doing over there at Warner Brothers? Okay, because as we know, yeah, there's a sequel to Hogwarts Legacy in development, but Game of Thrones game is like, yeah, you got one that's ready for release, but outside of that, it's like it's kind of like if you're going to be focusing on Game of Thrones and not the wider A Song of Ice and Fire and George R.R. Martin's Westerosi mythos, it's don't really have all that much. And DC, I'm sure you probably have something cooking, but as for Mortal Kombat, it's like that's going to be very dry. I'm sure they're going to be working on something for a few years now, but what are you going to do in the interim to make this division profitable at all whatsoever? Because the Hogwarts Legacy game is still going to be a couple years down the line. So what are you going to do right now to overcome the failures that you had, the numerous failures, the $300 million of failures that you accrued in 2024 alone? Well, apparently some of it could come in the form of selling off or potentially licensing some franchises over to Sony. Really? Okay. PlayStation could be interested in acquiring Warner Brothers gaming franchises. Now, this is just a rumor, but given Sony in recent months and years killing off so many projects in the crib, you would think that they would be having or engaging in a licensing deal with Planned Parenthood. Coupled that with a lessened focus, at least you'd hope, and especially, you know, with the indefinite delay on Marathon and Fair Games, I'm sure that's definitely going to be coming out sometime soon. But the reduced focus on live service game and pushing more towards the stuff that has been successful for you guys recently in the form of single player games, it's like it kind of makes a little bit more sense that you'd want to hop over to Warner Brothers to, you know, further entrench yourself in the single player stuff, and then also kind of branch out on stuff that does have more widespread appeal, that does have immediate normie appeal. So this makes sense. It's not like Sony is flush with money. They're in a better financial position than Warner Brothers, but yeah, they aren't exactly swimming in it themselves. PlayStation might be looking to acquire Warner Brothers video game franchises like Mortal Kombat, DC, and Harry Potter. Sony Gaming Division already has an impressive portfolio of franchises under its belt with God of War, Ratchet & Clank, Horizon, Marvel's Spooderman, and among many other from the PlayStation brand. Yeah, tight relationship with Square Enix, which, oh god, get back to making good games instead of virtue signaling. Okay, Square Enix, can we just go ahead and do that? Give me some information on part 3. Okay, that's all I want. Anyways, meanwhile, Warner Brothers Games has been undergoing some serious corporate upheaval this year, fueled in part by major titles like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League underperforming, Monolith's Wonder Woman game being canceled outright, and yeah, talked about multiverses before that, which was supposed to be this big old WB crossover that didn't last 6 months. Earlier this week, Warner Brothers Games announced that it would be dividing its IPs among 2 different leaders. Yes, we talked about Himmerich taking over for Mortal Kombat and DC, and LeChance for Game of Thrones and Harry Potter. This coincides with a larger Warner Brothers Discovery announcing that it split into 2 smaller companies. And so Sony could be adding Mortal Kombat and DC to its gaming catalog. Is that what you're focusing in on, huh? That's interesting. As mentioned before, WB Games is at a crossroads in the wake of its parent company restructuring. A sequel to the hit 2023 Harry Potter title, Hogwarts Legacy, is believed to be in development, and a rumor of that NetherRealm has already started to work on its next big fighting game, which may or may not be the long-awaited Injustice 3. It's possible. Speaking of DC, there are also rumors that Rocksteady is now developing a new Arkham game. Yes, it isn't clear if it's another sequel or, in fact, a franchise reboot. Also heard of a remake for, it was either City or Asylum. I think it was Asylum, but it could have been City as well. All of these projects could be developed under the PlayStation banner if Sony is indeed looking to purchase Warner Brothers gaming library, though it is still way too early to tell what effect buyout would have. I would kind of think, given Sony's financial position, it's not like they're on the brink of collapse like Warner Brothers, like several other AAA studios. They're not Ubisoft in any form or fashion. They aren't exactly as cash flush as Microsoft, obviously. So I think a licensing deal with Warner Brothers to use some of those IPs to create their own first-party games, exclusive titles for their consoles, that's very much on the table. That could end up happening, having an exclusive Game of Thrones title, snag an early access or first look deal in a console exclusive for Hogwarts Legacy 2. That could be a big thing. And because the partnership with Capcom in regards to Street Fighter V didn't work out all that well, whatever NetherRealm's cooking on, they could be getting in on that action. Like, a lot of it makes sense. It's just having the Marvel stuff in-house and then having that directly compete with DC. It's like, that would definitely be something. I don't necessarily take it off the table, but I also don't totally dismiss this idea completely and totally outright. We'll just have to see what happens with Warner Brothers, especially after Superman, and how the rest of the year at the box office and also at the cash register in regards to games works out for them this year. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.